Hi everyone, Caffeine Fox here. With it getting closer to fall, or autumn, as some might call it, I figured it'd be time for a wardrobe change. That's right, I am bringing out Old Faithful. This scarf is like, it's so amazing. I just love this tartan theme. I could be completely wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but tartan theme. Oh, it's so great. Okay, so I've never actually worn this before with my Kigu. There's a first time for everything, including fashion. The topic of this week's video is something that I had been meaning to talk about for the longest time, but just never got around to it. I have had some rough experiences in my life, and it wasn't until I discovered the fandom that everything pretty much came into focus. I'd be lying if I said my life wasn't better for discovering the fandom. And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. How my life got changed for the better by joining the fandom. A little bit of a recap. Prior to joining the fandom, I was in kind of a bad place. I didn't really know that many people. My self-esteem was super low. I just didn't really see what I was striving for, I guess, if that makes any sense. I would play video games. I play a lot of video games. That's pretty much all I did. I kind of want to blame World of Warcraft for this one because I spent a huge portion of my time playing it. And because of that, I feel like I missed out on so many opportunities. But once I put that off to the side, I finally was able to focus on other stuff, which eventually led to me finding the fandom. So that brings me to the first part of my 10-parter list for how the fandom changed me for the better. The fandom increased my self-esteem. I no longer became a shut-in. So I had really huge self-esteem issues, and I kind of still do, as evidenced by why I don't really show my face too often. But I feel like joining the fandom really helped bring me out of my shell. I no longer had to really worry about what other people thought because it felt like my calling, pretty much. Some people become astronauts. Some people become musicians. I became a furry YouTuber on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being the highest. My self-esteem prior to joining the furry fandom was at, I would say, a decent 3. Everybody kept telling me, don't worry about what other people think, just be yourself. And none of that really mattered until way later in my life. So I pretty much spent my entire life always thinking about what other people think and how they'll judge me based on what it is I decide to do. Joining the fandom was a huge self-esteem boost. I felt like I had something to contribute to the fandom and just people. Because at the end of the day, you're people. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands, but it's pretty great. And this brings me to number 2 on my list, which is friends. So before joining the fandom, I thought I had an okay amount of friends. Maybe 2 or 3 friends at a given time. My dad was in the military, so growing up, we ended up moving to a different base every 2 years. And because of that, I didn't really have trouble making friends per se, but it just was really difficult for me to make a lot of them. So I would really only have about maybe 2 to 3 friends at one time. Joining the fandom completely flipped that. There's too many of you. Holy smokes. Whether I'm having a bad day or I just want to chat somebody up, I always have someone available. Whether it's like in person or on social media, I am able to have a chances to chit chat with people. And I feel like that's an amazing experience that I only could have had by joining the fandom. I know you can do that without joining the fandom, but I feel like this made it a lot easier because there's always people out there and they're super friendly. The fandom is probably the most friendly place I've discovered in terms of like an interest group. So yes, number of friends is increased by a lot. The fandom has become a part of my existence. Before joining the fandom, I would find something and just stick with it for maybe about like a month, maybe even 3. if it was something a little bit more interesting. Discovering the fandom led to me actually finding a hobby that I could stick with for a long period of time. This wasn't a short investment like I thought it was gonna be. I honestly thought to myself, oh, this is just gonna be like a passing phase. I'm going to have a really huge interest in it, and then it's just gonna drop off. You know, I'm just not gonna talk about it. Just throw it off over there in that corner. It has not been the case. I've actually been in the fandom now for 2 years and some change. So it's actually become a part of my life. Now I know that might not be a huge time for a lot of you who have been in the fandom for a lot longer. And it might be a long time for those of you who've just joined. But for me, it is actually a long period to be interested in something and stick with it. It has actually given me a hobby that I can legitimately say has become part of my existence. I don't necessarily walk around in an animal costume 24/7, but I'm usually thinking of something fandom related each and every day. It has increased my ability to socialize with others. Whether it be online or in person, I am able to have a common interest and really talk about it for a long period of time with others. Joining the fandom has really increased my ability just to talk with y'all. Before joining the fandom, my ability to have a long conversation wasn't really up there, but now that I'm in it and I'm able to talk at length about the benefits of digigrade legs versus plantigrade legs for hours at a time, I am now able to just socialize more and actually talk to people. It wasn't the animal mask, I swear. Number 5. I only have 4 paw pads. It introduced me to my now husband. This is a huge monumental thing that occurred only because I joined the fandom. Now that I'm thinking about it, we both shared a common interest, and that was what sparked it and kind of kept it going, at least in the very beginning. It opened up the relationship a bit more. Discovering the fandom was my key to finding my future husband, and I'm just so thankful, by the way. The fandom introduced me to the joys of making videos. I never in 1,000 years would have imagined that I would be talking on YouTube to everybody out there until I ended up joining the fandom. I was browsing YouTube one day and I just found a bunch of random videos and just kept clicking through it. Maybe about 30 minutes in, the whole topic of furry YouTube came up. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. And then I started researching into it. That's how I discovered it. But the fandom introduced me to being able to talk to people on a weekly basis, and I just feel like it's become a huge part of who I am, and I would not change it for the world. The fandom changed my life for the better because I can now go to a sporting event and see a mascot performing out on the field and have a newfound appreciation for everything that they go through. It's super sweaty when you're inside of a fursuit, so when you're doing cartwheels and flipping around all over the place, it's even hotter. I am now able to watch a mascot at a football or soccer game, whatever, hockey, and just have a huge appreciation for what they have to go through. Before joining the fandom, I was like, oh yeah, they're just normal people that don't sweat. They don't sweat at all. Boy, was I wrong. Number 8. I can actually do this one because 4 and 4 is 8. That's right, you're learning math on my channel and you didn't even know you would. I've gotten a chance to travel all over the world, at least stateside for now. I'm able to go and experience all these cons in different places that I never would have even imagined going to. Like Indianapolis for Indy FurCon. I normally wouldn't have gone to Indianapolis. And as a result, I got to see all the history and just the city skyline and everything about Indy that I normally would have just maybe read on a Wikipedia article at some point. The 9th reason on how the fandom changed my life is I have a newfound appreciation for artwork. The fandom has so much artwork in it from so many different talented artists with so many different styles and just ways of conveying feeling, emotion. Oh, it's great. But whenever I would see like a piece of artwork, whether it was like feral or actually a persona standing on like 2 legs, I would have just said, oh, that's furry artwork. I'm just not gonna pay attention to it at all. I had this stigma in my mind that furries weren't great, and I don't want to be associated with that. I was super narrow-minded when I was younger, okay? So anytime I would see a piece of furry artwork, I would just immediately like ignore it and just be like, oop, I'm clicking on something else. If had I actually taken the time to look at the art and appreciate it, I would have come to the realization that the fandom is just chock full of amazing artists. And I feel like that's changed my life for the better. Last but not least, the fandom changed my life for the better because I got a chance to meet all of you. Yes, you right there watching the video. I got a chance to meet you. Being able to talk to the people who watch this channel, like on the comment section, I actually do respond to comments. It's so much fun just to hear everybody's perspectives, their stories, what they have to bring to the table, and occasionally hate comments. Looking at it now, I never would have gotten a chance to meet any of you had it not been through this platform. And for that, I am super thankful to each and every one of you. It's really interesting to see how I've changed over time. I went from super closeted, not very social, and just angry about anything that had to do with furries, to getting a chance to just interact with people, travel all over the place, and just have an awesome time. It was all made possible through the fandom. I am super thankful that I discovered the fandom. Alright, thank you everybody for watching this week's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give a thumbs up. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Yes! I hope you all have a super awesome and excellent weekend, and try not to get sick with the cold because it's fall and people are getting sick, like left and right. I'm actually just recovering from my cold. It was like a 2-week cold. Ugh. Alright, thank you everybody for watching, and have a super awesome and excellent weekend. Bye!